Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't expected her sabbatical year in Alaska to change her life forever. A wildlife biologist from San Francisco, she'd come to Katmai National Park to study salmon migration patterns and escape the chaos of her failed marriage. The wilderness, she hoped, would heal her. It was late October when the storm hit. Not just any storm, a historic tempest that meteorologists would later call the October Fury. Winds reached 90 miles per hour, temperatures plummeted to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and snow fell so thick it turned day into twilight. Sarah had taken shelter in her research cabin near Brooks Falls, 5 miles from the nearest ranger station. She'd stocked up on supplies and planned to wait it out, analyzing data and writing reports. But on the second day of the storm, something made her look outside. A dark shape moved across the white landscape. Through her binoculars, Sarah saw it, a young grizzly bear, struggling through the deep snow, dragging its rear leg. Even from a distance, she could see something was terribly wrong. Every instinct told her to stay inside. Grizzly bears were apex predators, unpredictable and dangerous. But Sarah had spent 15 years studying wildlife. She knew a death sentence when she saw one. That bear, injured in this storm, wouldn't survive the night. She grabbed her satellite phone and called the ranger station. No answer. The storm must have knocked out their communications. She tried the wildlife emergency line. Same result. She was alone with an impossible decision. The bear collapsed about 200 yards from her cabin. Sarah watched through the window as it struggled to stand, failed, and lay still in the snow. "Damn it," she whispered. She knew what she had to do. Sarah suited up in her heaviest winter gear and grabbed her veterinary field kit, a habit from her years doing emergency wildlife care. She also took her rifle, loaded with tranquilizer darts. If the bear became aggressive, she'd have one chance to sedate it. The wind nearly knocked her over as she stepped outside. The snow was waist-deep in places. Each step was a battle. It took her 20 minutes to cover 200 yards. When she reached the bear, her heart sank. It was a juvenile male, probably 18 months old, just at the age when mothers push their cubs away to fend for themselves. He should have been preparing for hibernation, fat and healthy. Instead, he was emaciated, his ribs visible beneath his fur. And his rear leg? Sarah's stomach turned. A poacher's trap, an illegal steel-jaw trap, rusted but still lethal, was clamped around the bear's ankle. The wound was infected, oozing, probably days old. The bear had been dragging this trap through the wilderness, unable to hunt, unable to fish, slowly dying. "How are you even alive?" Sarah murmured. The bear's eyes opened. They locked onto hers. Sarah froze. This was the moment. Fight or flight, predator or prey. Her hand moved slowly toward the tranquilizer gun, but the bear didn't growl, didn't bare its teeth. Those brown eyes just looked at her with something she'd never seen in a wild animal before. Resignation, hope, trust. "Okay," Sarah said softly. "Okay, I see you. I'm going to help." She knew this was insane. Protocol demanded she call wildlife services, wait for professionals, keep her distance. But there was no wildlife services coming. Not today, not tomorrow. This bear's only chance was her. Sarah set down the tranquilizer gun. If she sedated him in this cold, he might never wake up. She'd have to do this while he was conscious. Sarah pulled out her trap release tool, designed specifically for these situations. The bear watched her approach his injured leg. His muscles tensed. This was the moment he could kill her with one swipe of his massive paw. "Easy," Sarah spoke in a low, calm voice. "I know it hurts. I'm going to make it stop." She reached out slowly, giving him every chance to react, to refuse. Her hand touched the cold metal of the trap. The bear flinched but didn't pull away. Sarah worked quickly. The trap was old. The spring mechanism rusted. She had to apply pressure in exactly the right spot or risk snapping the jaws tighter. Her hands, even in gloves, were numb from the cold. She couldn't afford a mistake. Click. The trap opened. The bear jerked his leg free and Sarah scrambled backward, falling into the snow. The bear stood, actually stood, for the first time perhaps in days. He looked at his freed leg, then at Sarah. "Run," she thought. "Please just run." But he didn't. He took one step toward her. Sarah's hand found the tranquilizer gun, raised it. The bear took another step, And then he collapsed. The infection, the starvation, the hypothermia, it had all caught up with him. He lay in the snow, breathing but barely conscious. "No, no, no," Sarah crawled to him. "You don't get to die now, not after that." She checked his vitals. Weak pulse, shallow breathing, body temperature dangerously low. It took Sarah 3 hours. 3 hours of dragging, pulling, resting, and dragging again. She used her emergency sled, meant for equipment, as a stretcher. The bear was semi-conscious, occasionally groaning, but not resisting. By the time she got him inside the cabin, Sarah was beyond exhausted. Her muscles screamed, her lungs burned, her fingers were numb. But there was no time to rest. She'd cleared space in her storage room, laying down tarps and blankets. She hauled the bear onto this makeshift bed and immediately began treatment. First, an IV line, something she'd done dozens of times on sedated animals, but never on a barely conscious grizzly. Her hands shook as she found the vein, inserted the needle, started the saline drip. Next, the wound. She cleaned it with antiseptic, applied antibiotic cream, wrapped it in gauze and bandages. The bear groaned when she touched the injury, but still didn't try to bite or swipe at her. Then came the hardest part, oral antibiotics. She had to get pills into him. Sarah ground them up, mixed them with honey and water, and used a large syringe to slowly drip the mixture into the side of his mouth. The bear swallowed reflexively. "Good boy," she whispered. "Good boy." She set up space heaters, covered him with emergency thermal blankets, and monitored his temperature every 30 minutes. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, a Stanford-educated wildlife biologist sat beside a dying grizzly bear, holding his paw and praying. At 2 in the morning, his temperature started to rise. At 4, his breathing became steadier. At 6, he opened his eyes and looked directly at her. Sarah held her breath. This was it. Now that he was stronger, now that he was alert, he could realize where he was, what had happened. He could panic, attack, kill her. The bear blinked slowly. His gaze moved to the IV in his leg, to the bandage, to the blankets, then back to Sarah, and he huffed, a soft, almost friendly sound. Sarah laughed. It came out half sob, half giggle, completely exhausted. "You're welcome," she said. The storm cleared after 3 days. On the morning of day 4, Sarah's satellite phone finally connected. The first call was from her supervisor at the university. "Sarah, thank God. We've been trying to reach you for days. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. The storm was rough, but I'm fine." "The ranger station said you didn't check in. They were about to send a search party. Tell them I'm okay, but Dr. Morrison, I need to tell you something. I have a situation here." She explained everything. The trap, the rescue, the treatment. There was a long silence. "Dr. Chen," her supervisor said carefully, "are you telling me you have a grizzly bear in your cabin right now?" "In the storage room, yes, but he's..." "Sarah, you have to call Wildlife Services immediately. This is completely against protocol. You could lose your research permit. You could lose your career." "He would have died, Michael." That's nature, Sarah. You know that. We observe, we don't interfere, especially not with apex predators. He didn't get trapped by nature. He got trapped by a poacher's illegal device. Human interference caused this. Human interference can fix it." Another long pause. "Call Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Today. Tell them everything. If they find out you didn't report this immediately..." He didn't finish the sentence. Sarah called ADF. She spoke to a wildlife officer named Tom Reeves. He listened to her story, asked detailed questions, and finally said, "Dr. Chen, what you did was dangerous and technically illegal, but I understand why you did it. I'm going to send a team out tomorrow. We'll assess the bear and determine next steps." "What are the next steps usually?" Sarah asked, though she feared she knew. "If the animal can't survive in the wild, if it's too habituated to humans, if it poses a threat, we euthanize." "I'm sorry. That's protocol." After the call, Sarah sat beside the bear. She'd started calling him Atlas, after the way he'd carried that trap through the wilderness. He was sleeping peacefully now, his breathing steady, his wound showing signs of healing. "They want to kill you," she told him, "because I saved you, because you trusted me. That's the thanks you get." Atlas opened one eye, looked at her, and went back to sleep. Sarah made a decision. She had one day to prove that Atlas could survive, that he wasn't a threat, that he deserved a chance. She didn't know how yet, but she wouldn't let him die for the crime of accepting help. Sarah spent the rest of that day documenting everything. She filmed Atlas eating, walking, resting. She photographed his wound healing. She recorded his calm behavior, his lack of aggression. She needed evidence. Evidence that this bear was special, that he deserved a different fate than the one protocol demanded. Sarah called everyone she knew in wildlife conservation. Most said the same thing. Protocols exist for a reason. Habituated bears are dangerous. She should accept the outcome. But one person gave her hope. Dr. James Whitehorse, a conservation biologist and member of the Tlingit Nation, ran a wildlife rehabilitation center in Juneau. "Send me photos of the bear and his injuries," he said. "If I can prove he's a candidate for rehabilitation and release, I might be able to take custody." Sarah spent hours compiling everything: Atlas's wounds, his behavior, his vitals, his remarkable progress. She sent it all to Dr. Whitehorse. Then she waited, hoping against hope that this stranger would see what she saw: a bear worth saving. Meanwhile, Atlas continued to improve. On day 5, he ate solid food for the first time, salmon that Sarah had in her freezer from her research. He devoured it hungrily, his body desperate for nutrients. On day 6, he stood and walked around the storage room, testing his injured leg. It was still weak, but functional. The most remarkable thing was his temperament. Despite being a wild grizzly, despite being in unfamiliar surroundings, Atlas wasn't aggressive. He was curious. When Sarah entered the room, he would watch her but not threaten. When she changed his bandages, he would hold still, as if he understood she was helping. "You're different, aren't you?" Sarah said to him one evening. "I've never seen a bear like you." Dr. Whitehorse called back that night. "I've reviewed your documentation. This is extraordinary, Sarah. This bear's temperament, his response to treatment, his survival instinct, he's special. I want to take him." "Really?" Sarah felt hope surge through her. "My facility has a specialized program for bears that can't be immediately released. We can continue his rehabilitation, strengthen his leg, and most importantly, teach him to fear humans again. Make him wild." "How long would that take?" 4 months minimum, maybe 6. "But Sarah, there's a condition. The state has to approve it, and Tom Reeves has to sign off." Sarah's heart sank slightly. Tom Reeves seemed like a reasonable man, but he was also a man who followed rules. And the rules said habituated bears were dangerous. When the ADFG team arrived the next day, Sarah was ready. She had her documentation, Dr. Whitehorse's proposal, and most importantly, she had Atlas. Tom Reeves was a weathered man in his 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. He entered the cabin with 2 junior officers and a veterinarian. They all wore sidearms. "Dr. Chen," Tom nodded, "show us the bear." Sarah led them to the storage room. She opened the door slowly. Atlas was awake, sitting in the corner. When he saw the strangers, he huffed and stood up. A clear warning. "Easy, Atlas," Sarah said softly. She stepped into the room. "It's okay." To everyone's amazement, Atlas sat back down. "What the hell?" one of the junior officers whispered. The veterinarian approached cautiously and examined Atlas from a safe distance. "The wound is healing well. No signs of infection. He's underweight but not critically. Motor function appears intact." Tom watched Sarah carefully. "You've been in that room with him? Alone? Every day, multiple times a day? That's insane." "Maybe. But look at him, Tom. Really look. He's not aggressive. He's not threatening. He's just a young bear who got dealt a bad hand and accepted help when it was offered." Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I've been doing this job for 23 years. I've seen a lot of bears, and I've never seen anything like this." He turned to his team. "What's your assessment?" The veterinarian spoke first. "Medically, he's fit for rehabilitation. The leg will heal fully with proper treatment. Behaviorally? He's calm. Too calm for a wild bear in this situation. But that could be temporary. With proper reconditioning." Tom nodded slowly. He looked at Sarah with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Dr. Whitehorse's facility is the best in Alaska. If anyone can rewild this bear, it's him. But Dr. Chen, You need to understand something. If this doesn't work, if Atlas can't be released, if he becomes a threat—" "I understand," Sarah said quietly. "And you can't visit him. No contact. The whole point is to make him wild again. If he stays bonded to you, we've failed." Sarah's heart clenched. She looked at Atlas. He looked back at her with those trusting brown eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Tom pulled out paperwork. "I'm approving the transfer to Dr. Whitehorse's facility. Against my better judgment, maybe. But this bear, he deserves a chance." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. The hard part is just beginning. For both of you." They transported Atlas 3 days later. Dr. Whitehorse came himself, with a custom transport cage and a team of experienced handlers. The transfer was remarkably smooth. Atlas, seeming to understand this was part of his journey, walked into the cage without much resistance. Sarah stood outside as they loaded the cage onto the truck. Atlas pressed his face against the bars, looking at her with those expressive eyes. "Be wild," she told him, her voice breaking. "Be what you're supposed to be." The truck pulled away slowly, disappearing into the dense Alaskan forest. Sarah watched until she couldn't see it anymore. The months that followed were the hardest of Sarah's life. She threw herself into her research, trying not to think about Atlas constantly, but he was always there, in the back of her mind. Dr. Whitehorse sent her updates, clinical, professional updates that revealed little about how Atlas was really doing emotionally. Month 1, subject responding well to expanded habitat, showing normal feeding behaviors, weight gain progressing as expected. Month 2, subject successfully fishing in rehabilitation stream, avoiding human contact as trained. Aggressive responses to handlers noted, positive sign. Month 3, subject displaying appropriate aggression towards simulated threats, weight gain on track, natural behaviors fully restored. Month 4, subject ready for Phase 2, wilderness acclimation. It was during month 4 that Sarah received an unexpected email, not from Dr. Whitehorse, but from a journalist at National Geographic. "Dr. Chen, I'm writing a story about illegal trapping in Alaska and its impact on wildlife. I heard about a grizzly bear rescued from a trap last October. Is this true? Would you be willing to share your story?" Sarah hesitated for days. Going public meant scrutiny, potential criticism from the scientific community, maybe even disciplinary action from her university. But it also meant awareness. It meant education. It meant maybe, just maybe, preventing another Atlas from suffering. She agreed to the interview. The journalist, a woman named Rebecca Torres, flew to Alaska and spent 3 days with Sarah. They hiked the trails where Sarah had found Atlas. They talked about wildlife conservation, illegal trapping, and the complex relationship between humans and predators. "What was it like," Rebecca asked, "when you first made eye contact with him?" Sarah thought carefully. "It was like recognition. Not that he recognized me as a person, but that we recognized each other as beings, as living things that didn't want to die. In that moment, all the science, all the protocols, all the rules, they didn't matter. There was just life, reaching out to life." The article, published 2 months later, was titled "The Bear Who Trusted." It went viral within hours. People around the world were moved by Atlas's story. Social media exploded with shares and comments. Donations poured into Dr. Whitehorse's facility, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Politicians in Alaska started discussing stricter penalties for illegal trapping. Animal rights organizations used the story to push for stronger wildlife protection laws. But the most unexpected result came from the scientific community itself. Dozens of researchers reached out to Sarah, sharing their own stories of animals displaying remarkable intelligence, emotional depth, and, controversial as the term was, gratitude. "What you experienced with Atlas," wrote a colleague from Oxford, "challenges our fundamental understanding of animal cognition and interspecies relationships. This deserves serious academic study." Sarah found herself at the center of a new research initiative, documenting and analyzing cases of extreme trust and cooperation between wild animals and humans during rescue situations. Universities wanted her to lecture. Conservation organizations wanted her expertise. Her career, which she thought might be over, was instead transformed. But through it all, she thought about Atlas. Was he okay? Was he happy? Did he remember her? Dr. Whitehorse maintained his professional distance in the updates, but Sarah could read between the lines. Atlas was thriving. He was becoming wild again, and that was exactly what should happen. 6 months after that October storm, Sarah received a call from Dr. Whitehorse. He's ready. Ready? For release. Atlas has exceeded all our expectations. He's strong, healthy, completely self-sufficient, and appropriately wary of humans. It's time to let him go home. When? Sarah's heart raced. Next week. And Sarah, I think you should be there. You said no contact. I said no contact during rehabilitation, but he's done now. And this bear, he deserves to see the person who saved his life one more time, to know it was all worth it. Sarah booked her flight immediately. The release site was in Katmai National Park, far from human activity, in prime grizzly habitat with abundant salmon streams and berry patches. Sarah arrived early on the designated day, joining Dr. Whitehorse's team, Tom Reeves from ADFG, and a small film crew documenting the event for educational purposes. Atlas's transport cage sat in a clearing near a rushing stream. Inside, Sarah could see him, bigger now, significantly healthier, his coat thick and glossy. His leg had healed completely. He paced the cage with natural bear energy, eager to be free. He doesn't remember you, Dr. Whitehorse warned gently. We've worked very hard to make sure of that. Don't expect recognition. It's better this way. Sarah nodded, understanding the necessity. He looks incredible. He is incredible. In 30 years of rehabilitation, I've never seen a bear adapt so well. His survival instinct is extraordinary. They opened the cage remotely from a safe distance of about 100 feet. Everyone held their breath. For a moment, Atlas didn't move. He stood at the cage entrance, sniffing the air cautiously. Then slowly he emerged. He sniffed the ground, tested it with his massive paws. He looked around at the trees, the stream, the mountains. Freedom. This was his world now. Atlas started walking toward the tree line with purpose. Everyone watched in silence. This was it, a successful release, a wild bear returning to where he belonged. The months of work, the care, the rehabilitation, all leading to this perfect moment. But then Atlas stopped. He turned his head, looking back at the humans gathered in the clearing. His gaze swept across Dr. Whitehorse's team, past the cameras and equipment, beyond Tom Reeves and his officers. And then it landed on Sarah, and he stood up on his hind legs, a behavior grizzlies use to get a better view, to assess their surroundings, to understand threats and opportunities. That's unusual, Dr. Whitehorse murmured quietly. Why would he? Atlas stared at Sarah from 60 feet away. Their eyes met across the distance. Time seemed to stop. Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. In that impossible moment, she knew, despite all the science, despite all the reconditioning, despite every logical explanation, he remembered. Not with human memory, perhaps, but with something deeper. Animal memory, survival memory, the memory of a moment when death was certain and life was given. Then Atlas dropped to all fours. He huffed once, a sound Sarah recognized, the same sound he'd made that first morning in her cabin when he'd looked at her with trust instead of fear. And then he turned and walked into the forest. His massive form moved with grace through the underbrush, perfectly adapted to this wild place. Within moments, he was gone, swallowed by the green wilderness of Alaska. Sarah felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She didn't bother wiping them away. Goodbye, Atlas, she whispered. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for surviving. Dr. Whitehorse put a hand on her shoulder. You did it. You saved him. And then you let him go. That's the hardest part. Tom Reeves approached them, looking thoughtful. Dr. Chen, I owe you an apology. When I first heard about this case, I thought you were reckless, dangerous even. But what you did, what both of you did, it's going to change policy. The governor's office has already reached out. They want to use Atlas's case as a model for new wildlife rehabilitation protocols. I just wanted to save one bear, Sarah said quietly. You did, and in the process, you might save thousands more. The team packed up their equipment slowly, respectfully. This felt like sacred ground somehow, the place where a rescued bear had returned to the wild, where a human had proven that compassion and conservation could coexist. As they prepared to leave, Sarah took one last look at the forest where Atlas had disappeared. Somewhere in there, he was already doing what bears do: fishing, foraging, living. She smiled through her tears. This was how it should be. Sarah returned to her cabin to finish her sabbatical. She had 2 more weeks in Alaska before returning to San Francisco, to her university, to her transformed career. But she knew she'd come back. This place, these bears, this wilderness, it was part of her now. On her last day, she decided to hike to Brooks Falls one final time. The salmon were running, and several bears were fishing in the falls. It was one of the most famous wildlife viewing spots in the world, and for good reason. The sight of grizzlies catching salmon in midair never got old. She sat on the viewing platform, watching these magnificent creatures in their element. There were 7 bears fishing that afternoon, mothers with cubs, young males, older solitary bears. Each one was a miracle of evolution, a perfectly adapted predator thriving in one of the last true wildernesses on Earth. And then she saw him, a large male grizzly, distinctive for the way he Atlas. Sarah's heart nearly stopped. It was him, larger, stronger, his coat gleaming in the sun. He moved with the confidence of a bear who truly belonged to the wild. Atlas stepped into the stream and took his place at a perfect fishing spot. Sarah watched in silent awe. When he struck, it was fast and precise. A massive salmon clamped in his jaws. He ate on the shore, focused and powerful. Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. He was everything a wild bear should be. Then Atlas looked up. Dozens of people stood on the viewing platform, yet his eyes locked directly onto hers. Logic insisted it was impossible. Too much time had passed, and rewilding should have erased any tie between them. But for several long seconds, they simply stared at each other. Atlas gave a single, deliberate nod. It could have been anything, but Sarah knew. Recognition, gratitude, a final goodbye. Moments later, he disappeared into the forest. That evening, Sarah wrote in her journal, "I saw Atlas for the last time today. He's wild, he's free, and somehow, impossibly, he remembered me." She recalled what Dr. Whitehorse had told her. Grizzlies sometimes remembered specific humans for years. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was something more: connection. Atlas's story changed the world. Donations rose, policies shifted, education programs expanded. After returning to San Francisco, Sarah realized she couldn't go back to her old life. She joined a conservation organization focused on human-wildlife coexistence, traveling the world and sharing Atlas's story. Some colleagues accused her of being too emotional, but she never forgot that final moment at Brooks Falls. Years passed. Sarah built a new life, found love, led major conservation efforts. Every October, she returned to Alaska, watching the bears and silently hoping Atlas was thriving somewhere unseen, and knowing that not seeing him meant he was living wild as he should. Then one day, she received an email from a graduate student in Alaska. He'd been studying a remarkable male grizzly with a healed injury on his left rear leg. In one trail camera photo, he wrote, he approaches the camera and looks right into it, curious, almost thoughtful. "I'm certain it's your bear." Sarah opened the attached photo. There he was, older, scarred, magnificent. Atlas, still thriving, still wild. She wrote back, "Thank you. This is all I ever wanted, to know he lived the life he deserved. When you publish your research, tell his whole story. Conservation isn't just numbers. It's individuals. It's connection. It's understanding that every life matters.